Hello, welcome educators. I'm your National Geographic Learning Customer Success Consultant Manager, Sarah Heindorf. Many of you have been excited when you heard National Geographic because you remember the engaging experiences that you had as a curious learner. Maybe it was the photographs, the maps, and the knowledge you gained from interacting with National Geographic. At National Geographic Learning, we bring 130 years Nat Geo experiences into the learning through the resources you engage with when you adopt us. Through content woven into the program or through live and our virtual events, we embrace the mission of National Geographic so that you can share these experiences with your students. What you also are going to see and what you're looking for, because we are partnered with Nat Geo, is innovation many of you have come to know from Cengage in the approach we take to our digital learning solutions, so educators have inspiring resources to engage their students and customize their classroom. Whether you are digital first or just starting to incorporate digital into your daily instruction, our platforms are easy to use, easy to assess, easy to inform. Finally, we know this process to select new materials is a journey. I'll be here with you on this journey, but it's more than just me. It's a team to support you with digital onboarding, best practices through our talented author teams, and National Geographic explorers. Let's dive into how we would like to partner with you to bring the world into the classroom. I appreciate the opportunity to present National Geographic Learning's American Stories. U.S. History American Stories is a middle school U.S. history program that matches content, rigor, and richness with accessibility for all students. This program connects historical events to students' lives today and promotes empathy, tolerance, and understanding for all people. Emphasis is put on student engagement, empowerment, and active citizenship. Your student components consist of a print student edition available in English and Spanish, digital resources including a student edition located on our digital learning solution, MindTap. And because of our new partnership, students now have free digital access to additional primary sources, videos, articles, and activities through a link in MindTap to Encyclopedia Britannica. Students also have both a print and digital version of their history notebook. Honing critical thinking skills is so important in a history program. You need flexible and accessible content. Our history notebook is designed to do just that in a consumable workbook. Your students can work in these daily notebooks alongside their books or complete their work in the digital version of the workbook as well. As a teacher, the only resources you need to keep track of are your print teacher's annotated edition. This is also available as a digital teacher's edition through our digital learning solution, MindTap, and includes strategies for differentiation. This program focuses on student-centered learning through inquiry and storytelling, empower students to see their place in the tapestry of American history, creating agency, and provides accessible, rigorous content to engage and motivate all students. We'll be coming back to these three key components as we go through our presentation. The first piece that we focus on student-centered learning through inquiry and storytelling. We believe in the power of exploration, science, and yes, storytelling. Our visuals tell one story, an important one. We use famous and even lesser known images from museums all around the USA that open the unit for us in a captivating way. In American Stories, our National Geographic explorers act as role models for students. Our two-page National Geographic Explorer lessons relate the research our explorers are conducting out in the field to the content students are learning. Here, explorer Caroline Gertis documents life in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans, an area that was destroyed by flooding during Hurricane Katrina. Are you concerned with progress monitoring? We've got you covered through the historical thinking formative assessments built into our Explorer lessons. These two-page Explorer lessons enable students to read and think about their contributions to the scientific and historical record. Students will hear from anthropologists, geneticists, photographers, educators, writers, and more. Our storytelling extends beyond books. It takes students into the lives of real explorers and engages students in the learning process. Our National Geographic explorers provide their own firsthand stories documenting their research in relation to the subject matter that students are learning. Explorers like our National Geographic digital nomad and travel writer, Robert Reed, share his thoughts on how travel helps to make history come alive and connect to students' lives today. Let's watch a preview of one of the many Read on the Road videos embedded into American Stories.
When you hear American Revolution, what comes to mind? The 13 colonies? The shot heard around the world? Paul Revere's Midnight Ride? But do you know fact from fiction? Did Paul Revere actually complete his legendary ride?
The British are coming! Are you British? They're coming!
The British are absolutely on their way, and this is a concern.
Seriously, the British are coming! The British are coming! The British are coming! Like, I mean, for real. This isn't like the last time.
The British are coming. The British are coming.
Actually say that.
What? Someone just told me that Paul Revere didn't say the British are coming. I don't even know who I am anymore.
To find out the truth about Revere's Midnight Ride, I'm meeting with Patrick Leahy, the research director at the Paul Revere.
So that's a great example of one of the Read on the Road videos. As you can see, you can imagine how these videos enhance students' content understanding and make history a real thing that students are part of. American Stories offers a variety of options for inquiry and project-based learning. The essential question at the beginning of each chapter in American Stories is designed to spark inquiry-style thinking in students as they move through the text. You'll find a unit inquiry project at the end of each unit that asks students to present what they've learned using many different formats, including writing, video, and multimedia. It challenges students with open-ended questions and guides them to gather evidence from the text, synthesize a response, and present their conclusion to the class in a creative, engaging format. The History Notebook is a companion to the American Stories textbook and contains 4 long-term projects for inquiry-based learning that can be completed over a semester or a school year. Over the course of the projects, students conduct research and synthesize information from multiple sources to answer questions on broader themes. As you can see, the History Notebook is not a workbook. In it, we ask students to think about issues, form opinions, and provide reasons for those opinions. It is a place for students to record their thoughts and to help make sense of what they're reading. Projects in the History Notebook range from taking photos and developing a photo essay that describes their life in the United States to working with a few classmates to make a video of a historical reenactment. Students can use the pages in the section of the History Notebook that you see here to help them plan, conduct, and report out on their project. The History Notebook also provides pages called My American Story, where students can respond to instruction in the textbook and take notes, create a draft, and write a version of their American story. We've talked about how American Stories focuses on student-centered learning through inquiry and storytelling. Now we'll see some additional details when we walk through a lesson, and we'll take a look at how we empower students to see their place in American history. All students have the ability to achieve and acquire skills they can take into adulthood. The credo at National Geographic Learning wants students to think about the impact of their choices on themselves and others. Our goal helps foster the development of empathy as they also explore their place in the world. American Places focuses on the history and geography of the nation, connecting real, modern examples like this one of Hamilton on Broadway firmly establishes why these places are fun to study and helps students to identify with the content. American Stories treats history as an exploration of identity, both personal and cultural. We want students to be able to see themselves in the tapestry of American history. With features like critical thinking, we tap into students' own identity, asking, how does this relate to me as a student? In this textbook, our American identity is studied carefully, with nods to rites of passage, icons, and recognizable national symbols unique to the USA. We also stress identity through visuals. We want students to be able to see themselves in what they're studying and to know that they are a part of the American story. Armed with empathy for the world's peoples and their cultures, students are empowered to experience their unique place in history and apply their own strengths as global citizens. We include a citizenship handbook that contains the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and a Citizenship and You article. In addition to the Citizenship Handbook, we also have a primary and secondary source handbook, Geography and the Environment Handbook, World Religions Handbook, Economics and Government Handbook, Skills Handbook, U.S. President's Handbook, National Geographic Atlas, a glossary in English and Spanish, and an index. In the Why Study U.S. History feature with Dr. Fred Hebert, we further empower students to see their place in American history by exploring what it means to be an American, telling their American stories, and understanding the role of the United States in the world. We've talked about how American Stories focuses on student-centered learning through inquiry and storytelling, and how it empowers students to see their place in American history. Now let's show some examples of how American Stories provides accessible, rigorous content to engage and motivate students. You'll recall that the essential question at the beginning of each chapter in American Stories is designed to spark inquiry-style thinking in students as they move through the text. The critical viewing of our images is important because these are the vehicles that we use to engage students and transport them through time. On this page, one of our famous photographers shot a recreation of a battle. The American Voices biographies is an example of one of our additional special types of lessons. These lessons provide historical insight through the eyes of key historical figures. Regardless of how one feels about tattoos, our American identity has been shaped by messages relayed a long time ago. Benjamin Franklin's famous life as a supporter for independence is illustrated in this image he drew after he returned to America from England. These activities will include active options on your feet activity that will incorporate a cooperative learning strategy. A STEM activity demonstrates integrated learning and the NGL framework attitudes, knowledge, and/or skills. The history notebook will be incorporated into lessons like these, and the teacher's edition will provide instruction. Curating history. At our company, we have curated artifacts for over a century. Those artifacts appear in our book, and sometimes they are lent to museums for exhibitions. The special nature of our company is that we take these objects seriously, and they become an even better way of telling our unique American story. Curating history invites students to engage with these museums and learn about history through art and artifacts. This truly is an integrated text. You will see geography and history, STEM connections, and literacy connections throughout. Geography plays an important role in war, population settlements, etc. You'll find examples of geography lessons embedded in the book as well. This type of lesson demonstrates how the lay of the land, or the geography, help to determine battlefield strategy. It also allows students to examine the environmental and social impact of historical events. We continue to provide access to rigorous content through online features such as our modified text option, which addresses our striving reader audience that may need a simpler text structure. Students can opt for a modified text that still includes all the vocabulary and content, but written at 1 to 2 grade levels below the original version. Differentiated instruction suggestions are provided in each lesson for striving readers, inclusion, ELLs, gifted and talented, and pre-AP students. Now we've talked about how American Stories hits these 3 main components. Let's take a look at some examples throughout the chapter. Our timelines, though very visually appealing, also give the student a global comparative viewpoint, showing events in the United States on the top part of the timeline and events of the world on the bottom. Note that at the top of the page, we suggest students begin comparing the 2 timelines to form relationships. The chapter planner provides the teacher resources, assessment, and digital resources that will be used throughout the chapter. Any special features are shown, and resources for each chapter section are shown in detail. Teacher resources include reading and note-taking, vocabulary practice, skills lessons, and formal assessments. Students' digital resources include the e-edition, handbooks, and the online atlas, the history notebook, and projects for inquiry-based learning. A similar instructional path is followed throughout American Stories. A typical lesson is laid out in a 2 to 4 page spread format. First, we plan by outlining the lesson objectives, critical thinking skills, and background for the teacher. Next, we introduce and engage students in the lesson. Then, we teach the lesson through guided discussions and active options. And finally, we assess students through historical thinking. History is about questions, not answers. To study history is to learn how to inquire. To understand the past, we first need to question the past. We learn how to gather and sift evidence from the past in order to answer these questions through historical thinking. Now let's take a quick walkthrough so you can get a better feel for the program as a whole. We're going to be looking at Chapter 3, the 13 colonies. We begin the chapter with the American Stories feature. In some chapters, this will only be found online. You'll find references to the American galleries online where students can explore images from that time period that inspire additional inquiry. The series integrates literacy with content knowledge through support for reading, like you see here with embedded reading strategies. You'll also find writing and critical thinking skills support embedded throughout the program. We plan for the lesson by reviewing the lesson objectives, critical thinking skills, and background about the lesson for the teacher. Then we introduce and engage students in the lesson. We end with a formative assessment through the critical viewing question to monitor student understanding. And finally, we teach the lesson through building background, guided discussions, and active options. Active options allow you to extend the lesson. We explain how they work and what types of hands-on activities NGL offers. You have the option of exploring the activities as a class, turning them into group assignments, or even assigning them individually. You'll also find opportunities to have students write about history. This is yet one more type of formative assessment embedded into American Stories. Differentiation suggestions are included with each lesson for students that need additional support and those that need more of a challenge academically. The differentiation summary page gives suggestions for which lessons the strategy should be used with. We'll look at this more when we go online. The activities and tests in American Stories offer a generous variety of opportunities for both formative and summative assessment in numerous modes. Each lesson in the student edition ends with historical thinking questions that assess students' understanding of the lesson's content and their ability to analyze it. You can use this quick formative assessment to help students develop their critical thinking skills and to determine whether any concepts need to be reinforced or retaught. Guided discussion questions like those above provide additional material for classroom interaction. These questions can be discussed as a whole class, used for small group work, or assigned as homework. At the end of each unit, a unit inquiry and 2 National Geographic Learning Framework activities can be used as summative performance assessments. We offer section quizzes as well as chapter tests. Chapter tests are on and below level formal assessment. These chapter tests are designed to cover the same content, but one is simpler in text complexity. At the end of each unit, a summative assessment evaluates students' grasp of the main ideas and overarching themes of the units. How important is it for your students to encounter document-based questions? DBQs are found at the end of each chapter in American Stories and are based on actual historical maps and/or documents. Here is a list of all the features and resources available to you and your students on MindTap School. Some examples that we'll go into when we go live are the modified text for the student, the resources at chapter level, such as our Britannica partnership, the resources at chapter level, and the American Gallery. On the teacher side, we'll look at the chapter planner, strategies for differentiation, gradebook, course customization, and lesson plans. Before we get into that, we're going to show a video that goes over how MindTap can help you in your classroom.
MindTap is an online student learning experience that is powered by you, the teacher. Intuitive and easy to use, MindTap gives you control of your students' digital learning. MindTap helps keep students focused. It becomes the one place for students to go for readings, videos, interactive assignments, and assessments, keeping them on task with their learning. Students connect and engage with content. For example, in the ebook, they can highlight and take notes, and then access their annotations in a central location where their bookmarks and saved searches are also stored. As a teacher, you can customize MindTap to connect students to what you want them to learn. Through the customization tool, hide content to control what students see and when they see it. Or make the course personal by adding in your own web link activities to further connect students to what you want them to learn. Here's an example where a teacher is inserting a website along with the question for those students. Differentiate instruction by assigning content to individual students or to groups you've created to provide readings or assessment to the right students at the right time. Deepen student learning through embedded formative and cumulative assessments that will keep your students connected and engaged. Then, as teachers, you'll be able to see how your students are progressing. That's right, you can receive performance feedback in the gradebook so you can make real-time adjustments to focus on students who are struggling or further challenge those who are excelling. MindTap eases your ability to differentiate instruction. MindTap is powered by you to help keep your students focused, connected, and engaged.
Now let's take a look at what I'll demo live for you from that list. On the teacher side, we'll talk about digital assessments, Google Classroom integration, and app point-of-use resources such as the chapter planner, gradebook, lesson plans, strategies for differentiation, and printable assessments. In the student view, we'll look at modified text, read aloud feature and settings, Britannica launch packs, read on the road videos, and the American Gallery. Let's go live into the platform to take a look at some of these features. So here we are in our teacher view for U.S. History American Stories. If I jump on the left-hand side, I have my table of contents. So I'm going to go into Unit 3 and click on the Unit 3 Introduction. And you'll start noticing things that we talked about in our presentation today, which we'll walk through. One thing to notice is that the resources on the top right-hand corner will change depending on the part of the book you're in. So for example, we always have our general resources such as the history notebook, the glossary, the index, and our handbooks. But under our unit-specific resources, we have our assessments for that unit. And then as we get into the chapter, I'll show you that the resources will give us chapter resources as well. So here I am in the teacher's unit. I have all of my teacher tools, including scripted questions to ask. If I jump into the chapter 5, here is my chapter 5 planner, which we discussed. And now when I click on resources, you'll notice here is my chapter 5 resources, such as my quizzes, my Britannica launch packs, which we'll get into. But first, I wanted you to see on the teacher side, I can jump specifically to my different sections. Here's my chapter 5 resources, everything I need, and I can jump to these tabs up top. I can either page forward this way, or on the left-hand side, I can click into the next piece, which is strategies for differentiation. We discussed this in our presentation. This is where you'll see different strategies for different learners. I have striving readers, inclusion, English language learners, gifted and talented, and pre-AP. If you have many English language learners in your class, you can click on English language learners, and it'll show you some different strategies to use with your students and what lessons you can use them for. As I'm showing this, if I highlight anything, you can actually use our highlight tool to mark that. So as a teacher, I know I need to come back to that. If I click into any of the resources, such as in chapter 5, and I want to look at one of my worksheets in here, so if I scroll down, here's a reading and note-taking worksheet I can click on. Everything is available at point of use, so I can download this file, etc. If I want to assign something to my students, I can use my little menu bar up here and click on assignments. Once I'm in assignments, as you scroll down, you'll see different options for different chapters. So if I want to assign a reading to one of my students, I can do that. If I want to assign a quiz, I can click that box, and I can assign multiple assignments at once. But if I just want to do that one, I can click assign. And then I can choose which student I want to assign this to. If you have group selected, you can select that group. And then you choose a start date, an end date, and you can choose a very specific time as well, and how many attempts they'll get on that assignment. You click submit, and students will see that assignment when they log into their portal. We mentioned Google Classroom integration. This is a great feature of our MindTap digital solution. If I want to share, let's say, a reading activity right into my Google Class, I'll just find that reading activity, and you can always preview this by clicking on the link. I'm going to click lesson 1.1. And now if I want to just assign it, I can choose assign and walk through those steps we just did. Or if I click this share, I have a link where I can share directly into my Google Classroom. If I click on that link, I choose my Google Class, and I can create an assignment, ask a question, make an announcement from here. So it's a very easy, seamless integration. Once I have this here, I can put in instructions. Please read this before class, and then assign it. You can also, if you don't use Google Classroom, you can also just copy this link directly from here and put this in a different format, and students will be able to access the assignment. Once students start submitting assignments, teachers can access this menu bar and go into their gradebook, and they'll be able to see once students start submitting, here's that chapter 1, section 1 quiz that I've assigned. You'll see that grade, and you can always adjust those grades from there as needed. So the teachers really do have a lot of great resources. Again, if you want a printable version of this section quiz, you can come into, when you're in that chapter, come into your resources, and you'll be able to see any printable assessments. Here's that section 1 quiz printable. The last thing I'll show, again, in the Teachers Edition, if you're in your grid, you do have options to put students in group, and you have the course customization option. If you wanted to add anything to your course, you can do that here. If you wanted to hide any of our content, you could do that here as well. So if I wanted to add a link, let's say that I really want students going to a certain link, I can put that in here, and I can put an explanation, text to display, and put that URL right in here as well. Okay, so anything can be easily customized on the teacher side. Now I'm going to jump into the student side to show some student-specific resources. So again, from my menu bar here, I can launch the student edition from the teacher side, and I can see exactly what students will see. So here I am in my student side. I can see my assignment that has been assigned to me. I can jump right into here. So I can see this, and I can answer the questions on this quiz. These all have audio embedded as well, and it has students walk through question at a time so that they're focused on that question, and they can submit that when they get to the end. And again, once they've submitted that, the teacher will see the grade that they got on it, and the teacher can go in and make any adjustments. So there might be some where students are entering answers themselves this way. I can choose to submit. And submit those questions. Now I've completed that activity. Now we mentioned the modified text feature, which modifies the text level to up to 2 grade levels below. So I'm going to show you an example of this. I'm going to stick to Unit 3. So again, I'm going to come into Unit 3, Chapter 5, and I'll go to a specific lesson. Once I'm in one of the lessons, the students will start seeing a little radial button that gives them the option to modify the text. So if I jump to Soldiers in the Colonies, I start seeing this modified text option. If I click this, It just modified this chunk of text to up to 2 grade levels below. It also gives me the audio option to listen to that modified text.
Soon, colonists along the eastern coast also.
And you notice too that it tracks those words. So for students who need that customized support, they can do it. Students can also customize these audio options by clicking on the settings wheel up here, and they can turn off the text highlighting. They can change the highlighting options. They can change the word and sentence color that they want these highlighted in, as well as the text color. They can turn enhanced text visibility on, which is going to pop the text out, and they can slow down or speed up that reading with some additional options as well. So students can do that, hit listen.
Soon, colonists.
You notice the colors changed and it popped those words out for me. In the student resources on the top right, in that chapter, you'll see this Britannica Launch Packs feature. Again, this is a great partnership we have that students can access, which has specific launch packs for each chapter. So when I come in here, I can actually see the launch packs that are associated with this when I go into that, and I can see different articles, I can see different options for that topic that I'm looking at. So when I come in here, here's my Benjamin Franklin. So I can look at an article on Benjamin Franklin, a video, some different articles. If I click on article, I can change the article reading level. So if I need to drop this reading level down or up, I can do that. And you'll see that here with the reading level 1, 2, and 3. I can change that level. I can watch a video. I can look at different images. And if I don't want to look at this launch pack, I can come up here and search and go to a different launch pack as well. So a lot of great options with that Britannica launch pack feature. There's also those read on the road videos built in, which we talked about before. And you can find those a few different places. If that chapter has a read on the road video, you'll see that listed in the resources, or you can come in and search for REID read, and it gives me all of my read on the road videos below, which then students can click on and jump into and watch like we did in our presentation today.
This is Gettysburg.
You'll notice that these have closed captioning built in as well. The last piece on the student side that we'll show today that's really helpful and useful is the American Gallery. So at the end, again, I'm in my table of contents. I went into a specific chapter. At the end of each chapter, you'll see American Gallery. This is where students can flip through the different National Geographic images and the museum images and artifacts. They can see these all here and jump through and just get a really great view and description of every picture that we use in this program. So with that, I just wanted to wrap up our presentation today by talking a little bit about Explorer Classroom. This connects classrooms around the world with National Geographic explorers, bringing science, exploration, and conservation to life through live video events. Students have the opportunity to ask the explorer their questions directly, and each month Explorer Classroom features a new theme and provides supporting resources for educators. Throughout the school year, classes can also join explorers live on expedition through our In the Field series. So it's a really great resource. So I just want to recap those 3 main features that we focused on today in our American Stories program. We talked about how American Stories focuses on student-centered learning through inquiry and storytelling, teaches content reading using authentic science texts, and provides all students strategies to access grade-level texts. Thank you so much for your time today, and we really look forward to partnering with you and your students learning and being engaged through this program in the near future. Thank you.